Have you ever been talking about something with someone, a friend, some rando, or whoever, and then later on you scroll on your phone and you suddenly see a post or an ad related to that very same thing? It's eerie, isn't it? But don't worry, it's much worse than you think. Meta, X Corp, and ByteDance all engage in data mining practices on their social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, X, and TikTok, respectively. All these companies are intent on collecting whatever data that we give them, through cookies, beacons, geotagging, selected preferences, anything, for whatever purposes they want. Every single byte of data ever disclosed can be mined, analyzed, and compiled into a profile that displays patterns. An online transaction alone can reveal the degree of interest you've displayed in a good or service, what bank you use, your credit card information, your shipping address, your online ID, and your password for whatever site you bought that thing you bought off of. Data brokers have field days with the personal information that they buy from social media sites, which they then sell to advertisers who use that information to show us ads for things that they think we might want. These ads can go beyond what you're seeing while scrolling. The scale of social media mining is so vast that digital billboards could be manipulated to show specific ads at specific times, based on what topics people around that area have been posting on their phones at that specific time. A 2017 study used geotagged tweets from the London Underground and determined that about 40% of tweets between 6 p.m. and 12 a.m. on weekends in the North Greenwich station were about music. So placing an ad for something music related at that station at that time could be a pretty nifty idea. But beyond just advertising, the data could also find its way into the hands of the American government, or in the case of TikTok, the Chinese government, but we'll open that can of worms in a little bit. In 2013, former NSA contractor Edward Snowden famously leaked a bunch of info on global surveillance programs, including how the NSA tracked social media info to monitor Americans' social and professional networks. The FBI is also known to plan undercover agents in social media platforms to gather intelligence. The US government regularly requests data from social media sites, with Facebook receiving 11,000 requests in the first half of 2013 alone. You might be wondering, wow, this is scary stuff. Is this legal? And the answer, as it so often is, would be kinda. Some of these data mining practices are, let's say, less than legal, but plenty more of them are perfectly within the confines of US federal law. Of course, it helps that legislation on social media privacy is incredibly lax, allowing these corporations to take advantage of legal and regulatory loopholes to get the data that they want. Social media companies are exempt from many data breach notices in the US. Normally, these laws would force companies to notify people if their information was exposed or stolen. But because social media companies are considered a special class of service whose purpose is to allow people to provide information to the public, these laws aren't always triggered when personal information is unintentionally revealed, as long as it abides by the site's own privacy policy. The federal government hasn't been able to predict how technology advances, so what little regulation there is on privacy and user data comes from the developers of the social media platform itself, which, as you can see, can create a conflict of interest. We allow these companies to get away with these privacy invasions because, more often than not, their right to do so is hidden in a ginormous terms and conditions document. Contract abuse and fine print bullying happen regularly on social media apps, which peddle the notion that there's simply no way that the app can be used without tapping agree at the bottom of the screen, even though you might not always know what you're agreeing to. But occasionally someone will get caught for something, and the justice system can do its thing. Meta has had a slew of public controversies over the years regarding data breaches and privacy concerns, dating back to the 2016 presidential election. Can you believe that was 10 years ago? The British consulting firm Cambridge Analytica collected data from Facebook users without informed consent for targeted political advertising. Facebook did not take legal action upon learning about the data collection, even though it went against Facebook's privacy policy. Even though they rebranded as Meta, Zuckerberg's little operation still faces scandals regularly. In February 2024, the European Consumer Organization, or BOOC, accused Meta of illegally collecting unnecessary amounts of information on users without their consent, including their sexual orientation, emotional states, and susceptibility to addiction. This is after EU regulators already fined Meta 1.2 billion euros, or $1.3 billion, for transferring the personal data of European Facebook users to US servers. But hold up, we're not done yet. Let's move on to Instagram, who recently rolled out a map feature that allows users to see select users' locations and tag posts or stories to certain locations. While users can opt in and choose who sees their location, Some users and members of Congress have expressed concern about endangering young Instagram users by putting their locations on a map. X Corp, both before and after it was known as such, was continually facing fines for breaching privacy policies by selling user data. In 2022, the FTC fined Twitter, as it was known at the time, $150 million, claiming that Twitter violated a vow to not give personal information like phone numbers or email addresses to advertisers. TikTok, the hottest of these platforms at this moment in time, is taking things to another level. TikTok, like all Chinese social media apps, is subject to provisions enforced by the People's Republic of China. Plenty of public information points to China and the PRC using the app as a means of collecting data from its users across the globe. The app can track any user's precise location by collecting their device's MAC address, a 12-digit unique device identifier that can never be erased. Nothing can stop ByteDance from tracking your device once they have this. Not uninstalling TikTok, not deleting your account, not performing a factory reset. The only way to get ByteDance to stop tracking your device is to get a new device. While the Apple App Store and Google Play Store have banned apps from retaining MAC addresses, ByteDance has found a way to circumvent that. Scares about TikTok invading our privacy abound, culminating in that one-day ban in January 2025. But keep in mind that no matter what app you're on, some data will always be going somewhere. Since spending time on a social media site gives the site more information about you and your interests, obviously the company will want you spending as much time on the site as possible. That's where the algorithms come in. Data mining works so well for these companies thanks to their all-knowing, all-encompassing, mysterious algorithms, which are designed to keep us engaged so that we can feed the app more data about us. The algorithms are always said to be super objective, scientifically sound, and logical, according to the developers. But the reality is that we don't really know how much of any algorithm is based solely on what we give it, and how much of it is an enforcement of the developer's own agenda or biases, whether by design or even unconsciously. But things aren't as hopeless as they seem. Progress towards safer, stricter privacy policies is being made, although it's taking some time. The FTC has begun to enforce privacy policies by forcing transgressive sites into long-term consent orders, which allow the FTC to more tightly enforce a site's policies. Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, rest in peace, and Google have all been subject to these consent orders. Most of the legwork in the realm of privacy enforcement is coming in the form of state governments. In 2013, California enacted a law that supports the right to be forgotten, in which young social media users were given the right to erase comments from social media servers permanently. There is one place we can look to see how user information online can be protected: libraries. Yes, the real physical buildings, libraries. Librarians and the American Library Association have historically championed the right for people to privately seek information. Libraries have extensive privacy doctrines regarding the confidentiality between a library and its patrons, and the ALA has defended this confidentiality on multiple occasions. During the 1950s all the way through the 1980s, government agencies have tried to track the reading habits of library patrons for various reasons, whether it was Cold War paranoia, Vietnam protest paranoia, or more Cold War paranoia. Several collective action efforts to overhaul social media privacy norms have already taken place. Grassroots campaigns like commonterms.org petition for user agreements that are easier to understand, and the People's Terms of Service, outlined by a group of scholars, reflects consumer priorities of security and confidentiality. Combined with the organizational structure of libraries and the ALA under a unified front, these efforts could force the hands of social media companies to rethink their overly complicated privacy policies. Who knows? There might come a time where you don't have to quickly scroll to the bottom of a humongous document you don't read in order to watch short-form content on the internet. But until then, the best thing we can do is stay aware of what data we're sharing, who we're sharing it with, and what whoever we're sharing it with is going to do with it. Because that data is ours, after all. Thanks for watching.